Welcome to Kumba Software DPAA tutorials. This tutorial is an introduction to file management within the DataPower Administrator's Assistant. So be sure to set your video playback to high definition, and though some visual details of DPAA may have changed since this video was created, the functionality will be the same. So we've started DPAA, and I've selected a couple of appliances, and I'm starting on the default domain. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate over in the top of the screen to this Files tab. And select that tab. And when we select the tab, what we end up with is a list of directories that are provided to us. That's an aggregated list of common directories or directories among the appliance and domain selections I have made. There are 3 sub-tabs here. One is for managing files. The other one is for uploading files. And the last one is for cleaning up files. This is primarily for cleaning up temporary files in a quick manner on your appliances. All of these are covered in more details in other videos. My list of directories are determined by the selections I make between appliances and domains. For example, if I select another domain, you can see the directories list has changed to reflect a common list or an aggregate list of directories common to these 2 appliances and that domain. If I select another domain, we're going to see maybe a change. The reason why it didn't appear to change is because the directories must be the same or no new directories or new names showed up. If I select the default domain, you can see that we get a substantial change in the list of directories here. I can select more than one directory from which I may want to make a search. So for example, I can select all of these directories. And then if I want to search for files, it will search for all the files that are in these selected directories, not the others, and these selected domains within these selected appliances. If I conduct a search now, what happens is I get a large list of files, and as you can see, these 2 files appear to have the same name, and they do, because they're in this domain among these 2 appliances. And this is going to be true about a lot of the other files that we see that has been presented to us in a list. Once we have the list of files, we can do a number of things. For example, I can move columns around to make the columns make more sense to me. I can sort by clicking on a table header name. So I can sort forward and backwards like that. And I can arrange this however I like. I can put in a search expression. For example, I'm going to check the letters JS as in Juliet Sierra. And then I'm going to search. And as you might think by looking at the list, here's some JavaScript files, and this is what you would expect to give. But I can see I have some XSLT files. Well, what went wrong? Nothing. If you look very closely at the name of these files, they have the letters JS in them. So everything worked much like you would expect it to in the search. And the search can be relatively complicated. But at the end of the day, the search is a finding file names where whatever you type in the search expression is contained by that file name. I can operate or make many operations on the files I select, so I can select many files by Control or Command clicking or Shift clicking. And then when I have a selection of files made, I have a number of options that are available to me. There's a hamburger menu over on the right side of the screen. If I select this, you can see I have a number of options available to me to operate along these files. Likewise, I can press my right mouse button over the selection. I can get the same menu. So the same menu here is the same menu you get under the hamburger menu to be able to perform operations. To get the menu in the center of the screen for this demonstration, I'm going to right mouse click. And you can see we have a number of options available to us. For example, we can create a whole new file. In fact, you don't even have to have a file selection or any files existing in the directory to create a new file. You can open the files and look at them. You can perform a search and replace operation to search for some text and replace with other text. And in fact, you can enter multiple search and replace expressions in one go. I can compare my on-appliance files with files that are external to the appliances. And this is useful for as someone sends you a new file and they're telling you to replace the existing file with the new file, and maybe you want to get a look to make sure you have the right files selected. You can copy files, move files. You can also do a very powerful operation called a refactoring rename. So if you don't like the name of the file, or it's misspelled, or it doesn't have the right name in your opinion, you can rename that file and it will refactor the references to that file throughout your system. You can export the files. You can replace a file with another file that's external to the appliance. And these two menu items then become somewhat related because I can open with an external file or I can replace with another file. And then I can show what is referencing a file. And this is where refactor rename comes into play, that you can look at a file and see what is referencing that file. So, for example, if you're going to replace the file or update it in some way, you could get an impact analysis by showing what references that file. And then you can also delete your selected files. Now, all of these features are covered in other tutorials that cover these functions in more details, far beyond the scope of this introductory video. So if you like what you said, you want to see more tutorials, go out to www.kumbasoft.com. Go to the Tutorials and Features page, and you can watch any number of other tutorials available to you there. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.